And we're live, just like that. So this has the potential to be a fairly intense episode. I think we do, I've done a lot of serious episodes or heavy episodes, but the path that you walked is a path that a lot of women in particular have walked. And the journey we've went on as a family, our families kind of came together in 2016?
I feel like it's before then. I've heard you say that number a few times.
Well, I moved up from Los Angeles in 2015.
Okay. So it was right about then.
Probably then.
I know that you were, Jenny had just had Logan right around that time.
Okay.
Maybe?
So that was February of 2015.
Okay.
Literally right when we moved home.
Yep.
And then, or when I moved home, she was already up here.
Yep.
And then our lives became this crazy roller coaster where we leaned on each other quite a bit and we helped each other out. And you and I went on quite a journey. You and Jenny went on a journey. Your dad adopted me. Yep. Your brother became one of my best friends. And if people that are listening to the show are going to know who you guys are already, because I talk about the boys who are your sons.
My boys.
And, yep, your boys. And it's been such a really powerful life experience for me to find a family that I always say family is not blood.
Right.
Now family can be blood. And I've had a lot of ups and downs with my family that I'm actually related to. But you guys brought me in and it's been one of the biggest blessings of my life. And we've been talking about doing this since the beginning.
We have.
And I don't know why we haven't yet, but here we are. And so I know you're a little nervous because some of your story is just brings up some memories and stuff that are kind of hard, and you got your tissues there. And I think we're going to have a good episode.
Okay.
I just want you to go into it. You listened to the show before. You know how I like guests to do it. Introduce yourself, where you're from, what you're about, and then we will just go down your notes and take it wherever we want to.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually just podcasted a couple weeks ago, and it was a really phenomenal experience. So I never thought I would be doing this, and I never thought I'd be talking about this publicly, but you've encouraged me, and I know exactly why I haven't podcasted with you. I wasn't ready. It's really a painful story to share, but it's really powerful. So and I feel like you were put in my life at exactly the right time to walk this part of my journey with me. You didn't walk the first part of my journey with me, but you've heard enough about it to know how we got here today. So, first of all, I'm a mom, number one. There's no question that all I really care about is my kids. And it's funny because you texted me about doing the podcast and I'm like, yeah, let's meet up. Let's chat about it. It's my number one priority today. This happened yesterday. And then an hour later, you're like, yep, let's meet up tonight. And I'm like, oh, sorry, can't. I know I said you're high priority, but my son just texted me and we have plans. So
yeah, my feelings were really bad.
I know. So I was like, oh, there's the mom thing. So my kids are amazing. They are now adult children. I have almost an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old and a 21-year-old. And then I have two bonus kids that are 21 and 25. So we are in a new phase of life of beyond raising kids and hanging with our adult children. So it's awesome. And you had a huge part in raising my boys. I grew up in a really amazing family, as you know. My parents are two of the most beautiful people that I know. My dad desperately loves my mom. My mom was the best mom. And so from day one, I hit the jackpot. And I feel so blessed for that. And I was modeled the most beautiful representation of what marriage is. A loving, respectful relationship. My dad ran a business. He kicked ass. He loved me so much. He texts me today, every single day, how much he loves me. And my mom too. And so I was modeled this image of marriage from day one of the beauty of marriage. And I think that's really important in this story. So I grew up and I fell in love. And I ended up getting married at age 22. And
which is crazy to think about now.
I can't imagine my 21-year-old thinking about marriage. It's wild to me. And I do think that age has something to do with the demise of my marriage. And, spoiler alert, it didn't last. So we got married at 22.
Yes and no, right? I mean, as you get older, you're going to have more maturity and a clear lens to view the world through. But also the path you walked, it wouldn't matter if you walked that path at 20 or 40.
Maybe. It's hard to know. I did not have experience. You guys, I was very naive. My parents didn't drink alcohol. We were in church every Sunday, and I'm grateful for that.
You were literally the preacher's daughter.
I was the preacher's daughter. After my dad sold his business, he was in pharmacy. He owned 2 pharmacies, and he was a pharmacist. As soon as he sold, he was just getting burned out. Pharmacy, as we know, was going a different direction. And then he became, the short story is he became an associate pastor at a local church. And so, I was a preacher's daughter. So I was pretty naive, and it's okay. I look back now and think, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything. So we get married. We have my husband at the time. We had started a business, and I was very familiar with that because my dad was a business owner. And my dad actually told my husband at the time that if he wanted to marry me, he had to have his business successfully running for a full year before we could walk down the aisle.
Oh, he set prerequisites?
Oh, hell yeah. So dad
Good
was
for
like,
Papa.
Papa's a rock star.
I'm going to have to talk to him about
this. And so now I look back and
we're going to be there soon with our daughters.
Yeah, you do. And so if a dude comes to ask one of the girls' hands in marriage, which I can't imagine being a dude coming to ask for one of your girls' hands in marriage, that scares me for those guys. I can tell you.
No, you want to know what's funny? And we can go off on all the tangents we want to. I feel like I'm more accepting of, because Siler's 15 now. She has a boyfriend. And like a lot of times people will just kind of be like, oh, it's puppy love or their kids or whatever. But I remember being in high school and being madly in love with my girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think that the emotions that you feel at 15 or 19 or 25, they're all the same.
They're all relative.
And they're real.
Yes.
They're real. And so I've always and she's 15 and they've been together 2 years now. They had their 2-year anniversary. So they got together as children. And I've always been cool to the kid. Yeah. Always. Yeah. And that's what everybody says. Oh, dude, I'd hate to date your daughter. It's like, no, you know what? If you treat her with respect, I will be the coolest, father-in-law or whatever you want to call it, dating father-in-law. Yeah. But I want to make sure that he can grow into a good, strong, powerful person too. If she's going to end up staying with him.
Right, long term.
And I asked her the other day, I was like, do you think you're going to marry him? And she's like, I'm not sure. We'll see where life goes. Not all in, but it's not off the table either. And that's kind of Siler, you know?
That's a really healthy place to be when you're 15.
I think
Absolutely.
so for sure. Mm-hmm. But I do think that if it becomes serious enough, they're going to have to train some jiu-jitsu with me. Mm-hmm, and that goes for Gwen too. Her, they got to get some rounds with me.
Yep.
And that's going to be part of...
I love it, man.
Welcome aboard to the family.
Welcome to the family. Please do that. Please do it. And right now.
And those roles come from a place of love, just like I did with Garrett.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I liked that. I thought that was a powerful experience. It was good for him.
It was good for him. Has Garrett been back? I don't think so.
Well, he lives in Eastern Washington. Yeah. So.
I mean, to any gym. You can find a gym, but he's busy with baseball. Yeah. So So part of my story is just I hit the jackpot with my family, ended up getting married at 22. And I have to throw a little disclaimer just because this is a really sensitive story. I have to watch out for my babies. They're number one, always, like I said. And so I'm going to tell a little bit of my history very cautiously. Like I said in the podcast that I did last week, this is the most PG version you will ever hear of any of my experiences. And it was a little bit of a slow roll, but I want to say intimidation or abuse started pretty quickly after we got married. I didn't have any signs before marriage. We didn't live together because I was a preacher's daughter and I wasn't going there. So I didn't have experience living with him. I only had experience with him after we were married. So
what do you think of that now?
I feel differently about it now. Mm-hmm. I do.
Because if we're being like, I understand your faith is important to you,
Mm-hmm.
but I also understand that it's easy to put on a facade when someone's not front and center in your life.
Totally. That's what I think
And the
happened.
red flags that started popping up after you moved in together would likely have undoubtedly been seen.
Absolutely, they would have.
If you had said, hey, let's do a year together or something.
Yep, 100%. Because if I'm at my house and he's at his house, he doesn't have to come home at night because I don't know. I'm at my house.
Of course.
You know? So,
and then also just the way that you occupy space together,
absolutely.
The energy that gets created once you share a household together, like all of those things, I think are really important.
I think they are too. Just learning to co-inhabit with somebody is hard enough, you know? And when we got married, our story is kind of adorable. So we moved into an apartment on Avenue C in Snohomish. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you that our apartment was the size of this room. And literally, we lived in a box. Our apartment was so small.
Dude, this room is awesome.
It's an awesome room, but imagine having your kitchen, your bedroom,
it being your whole house.
Your closet.
Yeah.
And the bathroom was connected to the closet, to the bedroom, to the kitchen. And this is actually a really funny part of the story. We didn't really have a space for our bed. There was no room because the bedroom, we couldn't open the closet if we put a mattress in the living space. And then you would have to climb over the bed to get to the bathroom. And so,
is that what you were doing to go to the bathroom every time?
No. So this is the great part. We secret stealth built a loft. We did not get permission from the landlord. But there was like
so the preacher's daughter, preacher's daughter's going full renegade now.
Total renegade. And I remember thinking, okay, we have to use the saw. What do you call that? The saw.
Skill saw.
Thank you. We have to use the skill saw while the owners of this house, because it was their mother-in-law apartment right behind their house. Like, we got to do this when they're at work because they'll hear it. And it was loud. And so he built above, there was like a small wall that was separated the kitchen from the bedroom, I guess you could call it. And he built like a triangle loft and a ladder. And every day we would pull up the ladder and put down the ladder and climb up there. And there was no mattress that actually fit a triangle. There's no triangle mattresses. So back in the day, it was before memory foam and all that. We took the egg. Do you remember the egg?
Before memory foam. You're showing your age right now.
Yes. Hey,
way older
than you. You know I'm way older than you, and I know you're always chasing me, so just whatever. Yeah. So you know that they look like egg carton foamy things?
Yeah, of course.
So we layered that, and it was just a mess. But anyways.
Angela, all that stuff is good though.
It was good. It's such a memory for me. I actually really like that part. I like a lot of the parts that I have in my story. I like a lot of them.
I think, well, that's good too, because that would be a shame if you looked back on your life and just everything was dark.
Yeah, totally.
But also, man, I was just talking to someone. It might have been you. I don't remember who it was. I think it's good for every human being to go through a period of time where you don't have two nickels to rub together and you're struggling and you don't know how you're going to make rent next month. And when you're in that space, I'm not saying it's enjoyable to be there, but it's a big part of teaching you perspective. So when you do start to amass some kind of wealth, you can hold that perspective.
Totally. I mean, we can both speak on that.
I know. We were broke together for a while.
I know. How did we survive?
Well, we'll get into that.
Okay.
We're going in chronological order.
Okay. So we, like you said, we could not rub two nickels together. We did not have a pot to piss in. And I'm telling you right now, the shower didn't even have a shower head. We had to like glue the hose that was apparently the shower. And I couldn't even wash my hair. I had to duck under. This is how tiny this apartment was. But we did it. And I really enjoyed that time of our life. We used to be so broke that we would do these dates when he would come home at night from work. And I was still in college. So I was just finishing up my teaching degree. I was on my last year at Western. I was doing a branch in Western branch campus. And I was working at a coffee stand like we all do, right? And so I would get home before him and he would meet me at the house and we would walk down Avenue C onto Avenue D. And if you remember Snohomish, which I know you do because you're—
That's where I graduated from.
Yeah, that's your hood. We would walk down Avenue D to Baskin Robbins and we would get one scoop of ice cream on a waffle cone. And that was dinner. It was dinner. It was dessert. It was a whole date. And it was epic. I loved those times.
And just so people know, because you won't be watching this on YouTube since my YouTube got shut down, you are probably the biggest health freak I know now.
I am now.
That's what I'm saying.
I was 22. I was skinny no matter what I ate, you know?
I'm trying to visualize, where was the old Baskin Robbins?
So it's up
all the way up by the current Hagen's.
Right past that, it's also it's like another yogurt shop
right
before you hit the fire station.
I remember that.
Yeah. So one day he came home from work and I was home, of course, and again, we had just started a business and it was in the trades, and he walked up the stairs.
The ladder or the stairs?
So the stairs came up to because it was over the garage.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The ladder was put away at that time. And so he comes upstairs and he literally has a wad of money in his hands. He's like, "You are never going to believe this." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "We got paid." And I'm like, "Oh, shit. How much?" $1,100. And we literally thought we hit the jackpot because at that point, our rent was $400 a month.
Yeah, dude. $1,100
was money.
$1,100 would be money right now.
It would be, but not for the month.
No,
right?
Of course not. Yeah.
So, and he had other jobs. So that was just one contractor that paid him.
That's like my oldest, Sai, who's a camp counselor this summer.
Uh-huh.
She got paid her first paycheck on Friday, and it was over $600.
Oh, dang.
And she screenshotted her direct deposit and texted to me and goes, "I'm rich."
I love it. Well,
and it
when
feels
you don't have
good.
bills, you are rich.
Yeah, that's true. But even when you do have some bills and like, you know, he started the business and you guys are on the grind and that first little indication that things are starting to work, it's awesome.
It's awesome. And it was awesome. And one thing led to another, and we ended up, you know, buying a house in Snohomish, our first house. It was $275,000, and I was stoked. I couldn't believe it. Now, you can't even get a shack for that at that point.
You can't even get a mobile home for that around here.
Can't. But it was such a huge investment for us. It was such a huge accomplishment, and we were so proud of it.
Where was your first house at?
Off of Weaver Road. So if you're going on,
like Costs that you go down, there's that old folks home right there.
Yeah, but it's way past
Way
that.
past
So
that.
yep, it's closer down as you get to 2nd Street.
Do you know where my first house was at?
No,
150 feet that way.
I did know that. I thought maybe you were going to surprise me or something.
That's it. That's my first house.
Okay.
But yeah, of course, buying your first house is big shit.
Deal.
It's big shit.
Yeah.
And also, that is anybody that has any understanding of wealth on any level will tell you that's the smartest move to start to make as young people, is acquiring property.
Yep.
And so, of course, it feels good. Mm-hmm. It's important.
Yeah. So we had the typical, like, get married, start a business, start seeing success. And really early on, I saw some really strange things happen. So again, not having a lot of experience in the big world, I had no experience in addiction, none. Like I said, my parents didn't drink. We certainly didn't do anything that was drug related, but I learned pretty quickly that this is not what it seemed. And things like not coming home at night. So my husband would just go missing. And that was really hard for me because I was really concerned for his safety. And I do want to say I was very, very much in love with him. And I cared so much about his safety, his well-being, all of the things.
And this was what, early 2000s?
Yes, because we got married in 99.
Okay.
Yep. And pretty quickly it was.
So this was before nobody had cell phones.
So we had I think I had a
pager.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah. No.
I had a pager at one point.
I didn't have a pager, but I did have the brick phone in the back of my car for emergencies only.
Okay.
But at this
only
point,
high rollers had those.
I was a high roller, I'm telling you.
Once the business took off, you got the brick phone.
Actually, that was from my dad. That was a gift from my dad. Thanks, Dad.
But I'm saying that because, like, when he wouldn't show up, there's no way to contact him.
So, or he wouldn't answer his phone. We did have cell phones. They were like flip phones or
Nokia 5150s.
Yes, that's exactly what they were.
That you could play Snake on and nothing else.
And it was like you click the side button and it beeped.
Did you know that I'm a Snake master?
No.
Okay.
Well, I think Sheely told me that at some point. And I don't know what he was talking about, but I'm pretty sure he did. So where were we? Where are we going with this?
Well, you're saying that something started to feel amiss because your husband wouldn't come home. And I'm thinking like, duh.
Yeah, right.
But since you're like young and naive and just, okay, I guess this feels kind of off.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that 99.9% of wives, if you just didn't come home and didn't preface it with something or give a heads up, it sounds problematic. I could give it a try and let you know how it goes.
Please don't. Yeah. I'm on Team Jenny. Okay. And I know that he was with a group of guys that pretty frequently didn't go home at night too. So I don't know why they would just, I mean, maybe they would come home at 2 a.m, but that's still to me just, it's unhealthy. And it scared me. I don't even know if I was mad. Not in the beginning. I was really scared. Like, what is this?
Well, you're also someone that is, and I say this from a positive place, not a negative place, but you're one of the most emotional people I know. Like like no one wonders what you're thinking. You like whatever is transpiring, that emotion consumes you and it fills you and it's very present in you. And so like I can sit here while you're telling the story and visualize 22-year-old Ange like in full panic mode.
A total panic mode. Total. And just like you said, I am so empathetic. It's almost to a fault. Like I feel things to my bones. And I love it and I hate it. I love that I can feel emotion more than anyone that I know. And if I love you, man, you're going to know it. And I don't hate anyone, but if you're not if you're not on my team, I just don't associate, right? But I feel your emotion. If anybody, mostly the people I'm closest to, which is you and Jenny and my solid 6 girlfriends,
which we'll get into.
I feel the energy. I can't explain it. And I know that you and I have talked about this before.
I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, to the point where I know I've talked about it on the podcast before. There's been incidents, and again, we're bouncing all over the place now, but there's been incidents that have taken place where I've been in a bad place for whatever that may be, dealing with depression, dealing with just life issues. And there's several times when it's like I'm reaching a very, 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 I'm spiraling down a dark hole, and you'll text me and be like, hey, I feel like negative energy surrounding you. So what's going on? And it's like, what the fuck is this?
It's happened more than once.
I think it's probably happened 5 times.
It probably has. Like, how do I know?
And
I'm
sometimes
10 miles away.
And sometimes it's been like 3 a.m.
Yep.
Wake up in the middle of the night and I'm insomniac as fuck, and I'm depressed about something, and I'm going through something hard. And you're like, hey, that negative energy, I'm feeling it again. Like, and it's surrounding you. So you have psychic powers. I've told you that for years, but you don't really like acknowledge them as psychic powers.
I just think it's empathy. I feel, like I said, I feel everything to my bones. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're feeling. And it is a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Which isn't a lot of stuff. You know, it's a double-edged sword. So many things in life are a double-edged sword. And I could totally see that being a double-edged sword. Because a lot of times connecting with people's energy is going to be a good thing. But it can be real dark too. Yeah,
it can be. And it's not with everyone. Like I said, it's just mostly the people that I'm most close to.
Can you feel energy fields of people? I guess you just answered it. You said it's people that you're close to. Like, can you walk by someone in a mall or something and feel like light or darkness from
them? Man, that's a great question. Yeah.
So then you just have the ability to read energy.
I feel like and people in general, this is kind of one of those stories, but it's more obvious that she was in distress. But I have this moment that happened probably about a year ago where I was in the airport and there was a girl. We were just about to board the airplane and it was like, all right, last call. And there was a girl leaned up against the wall in the airport just behind where we were in line to get on the plane. And she was probably in her early 20s. And you could tell she was distressed. Her body language, she had her hands over her eyes. Like, you could tell she either was crying or had been crying. And I checked myself. I'm like, I need to talk to her. She needs me. And it was like that ping pong where you look back and you look at the plane and you're looking back at the girl and you're like, I don't have time. Or to this day, man, I so wish I would have.
You chose to get on the plane?
I chose to get on the damn plane and I'm upset about it.
Because you know she needed some love.
Yeah. And so.
No, that's your power. That's your power. And it's, I mean, again, we're going to bounce all over the place because we're going to go back to your story, but it's important to tell some parts about who you are so people can piece together the whole story. And your ability to read energy and then interject yourself is something that I've never seen before. And that's literally how we met. I think you worked out at the CrossFit gym that I built. And I taught jujitsu. So like we'd cross paths. Right. Like I knew who you were, but we didn't have any type of friendship. And that was actually a really, really dark period of my life, which you obviously know.
Yes.
And I had literally been contemplating suicide all day. And I even had a place picked out.
I know this.
Which why would you do that? Why would you have a place picked out? It's a bizarre. The brain just starts acting really fucking bizarre when you've had enough and you want it to end. And I was like, there's so many things that are going wrong in my life right now. I'm not happy anymore. I don't feel like my goals and my aspirations are coming together at all. My business is failing. And I'm just fucking tired. I'm tired and I don't want to go on. And it's weird saying this. And people know I've talked about this on the show a lot because I try and be really authentic with people, because there's somebody right now that's in that dark spot.
Yep.
There's somebody in right now that's in an abusive relationship, and these conversations give them power. And that's the truth. Here. That's the truth. Because I've gotten emails 1,000 times over the last 3 or 4 years, however long it's been, to where people are like, hey man, you talked about this. And I had my wife listen and we sat down, and it opens a new door for them to walk through. I'm walking downstairs and I'm leaving the gym, and you had a key. You had VIP privileges.
Yep.
And so you were downstairs working out alone, and you literally looked at me and you said, hey, come here and sit down for a minute. And you have a better memory than me, so you probably remember what you said verbatim. But you said, what I remember you saying is, hey, I'm very, very familiar with darkness. And I see darkness in you. And something's going on. And if you need to talk, let me know.
Dude, I remember it like it was yesterday. And you sat on the rower.
Dude, that hit me so hard. I literally sat right where I was standing. I sat on the mats, and I was like, because one thing about when you're in a suicidal, when you're having suicidal ideologies, one thing you tell yourself is nobody cares about me. Nobody understands me. No one can see me for who I am. All these things that you isolate yourself from that. So for you to just be like, hey, you know what, motherfucker, all these walls are getting broken down and you're talking to me right now. It was literally like a breath of fresh air, because depression, you feel like you're suffocating. And I was like, what's going on? How does she know this? How does she know that I'm going through something? How can she feel this energy? And then we had a real hard talk about bad times and going through tough stuff. And that was a big part of me taking that first step to climb out of that pit. Because when you're in that pit, you literally think you're going to just keep falling forever. But eventually your feet will hit the ground, and then you can start taking those first steps to climb out of it. And that was it for me. Yeah. So for me, I knew from that point forward that you were going to have some type of role in my life. Because I honestly think you helped me get out of a darkness that I don't know if I could have got out of on my own.
Well, and just to bring it to light, hey, let's talk about this. And I didn't even know you. That wasn't even fair for me to do to you. But for whatever reason, I feel like I listened. And I'm a hardcore woman of faith.
And I told you the truth.
So do you remember what you said right after you sat down?
Yeah, I said, do you ever just want to get in your car and drive off a cliff?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to, I'd met you 20 seconds earlier. I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm actually driving down the street to shoot myself, and my Glock's in my waistband right now. That's probably not. Dude. So I just said, hey, you ever just feel like driving your car off a cliff? You get in such a bad way that you don't want to go on. And you're like,
I said, yeah, dude. Yeah. Because at that point, I was in the fiercest custody battle of my life. I was so dark too. And I do think that because I was in an ugly place, I could probably also sense it on you. But the
thing is, the crazy thing for me is oh, I'm an Army Ranger. I had 14 deployments to war. I was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'd fought MMA in the cage. These most people in my life revered me as this extremely tough, capable person. And when that's what your community looks at you as, the last thing you want to do is go be vulnerable.
Yeah, but I think that gives you more of a pass to have darkness because of your experiences.
I think so now. I think so now for sure. But at the time, like I couldn't even go to Sheely.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean?
Never tell me that.
Like you don't feel like you can go to your guy friends to deal with depression.
Okay.
But that's also, I mean, I was 34 then or something, maybe 35.
Yeah.
And I was just starting to learn about fighting back against your darkness. I'll cry with my friends now. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like
you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
No, but it's, and I have a lot of friends like Sheely and Stanaway and Folk and guys that like, hey bro, you want to fucking go grab a coffee and talk some shit and hug each other. And like, now I'm getting kind of choked up because I have male friends. We tell each other we love each other now.
I love that.
And that shit felt, oh, that's gay. You know?
Totally.
And it's like, yeah, it feels fucking gay because you're not supposed to be in love with men. Well, it's not sexual.
No.
It's you're misconstruing intimate connections
totally
with sexuality. But the young male brain takes a long time to sort all that shit out. And so I needed some assistance on that.
Yeah.
And I was always afraid of counselors too, because I would tell myself, what's that fucking bitch know about me?
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
She knows fucking nothing about me.
I remember you saying that.
And I would attach like anger and negativity to it. But guess what? You didn't fucking know nothing about me either. And you still had the ability to kind of bring, even if it's a moment of peace, when you're in a storm, a moment of peace gives you enough clarity to be like, I can still feel good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel bad for so long, you forget what it's like to feel good. And
was that the time where you did decide to kind of consider talking to somebody about it?
I went into like robust counseling.
I knew it. I didn't want to say that.
No, and I don't know if like what the timeline was in regards to our connection. But yeah, that whole period was like, fuck, man. It was a weird time for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I do remember having that came up in that conversation. Like, hey man, it's okay. Because I went deep. I deep dove into counseling shortly after I finally separated from my husband. And it saved my life. It absolutely saved my life. And so, yeah, people can poo-poo it all you want. And even my dad sometimes is like, I didn't really think that worked, but it did. It does.
This is what I tell guys and gals now that are reluctant to go to counseling. 9 out of 10 counselors that you sit down and have a meeting with may be full of shit people that can't help you. But never tell yourself that another human being's perspective couldn't offer you some good.
Absolutely.
Like to think that that's not a possibility, you're being foolish.
I totally agree.
And I don't care what their background is. Like, oh, well, she wasn't a ranger in combat, so what does she know? No, but guess what? Maybe she went through what you went through.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know her story. Her darkness could be worse than mine.
You would be surprised.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. You'd be surprised on what people's stories are. I've learned that. Yes, I've learned a lot about people. And I think part of being an empath is I ask questions. Like there was a jujitsu mom sitting here watching her kid not too long ago. And I completely felt like engaging in her. And I don't normally do that unless it feels right. And I know so much about her now. So she needed it. Yes.
She wanted to open up to someone.
Oh, it was awesome. We had the most fruitful conversation. And I'm not the girl who's going to talk to you on the airplane. So just don't talk to me. I want to just sit there.
Airplanes are tough for you in general.
Yeah.
We've had some bad experiences on airplanes.
We sure have. Oh, man. See, I forgot about that it's okay.
See,
it's part of the story.
I mean, going back to when things started to fall apart for you, and I think this all ties together. That's why I like long format podcasting. We can talk for the next 2 hours. One thing that you have said to me, and you actually said it on your last podcast, because of course I listened to that, and you said, as things started to fall apart around me, I always upheld the image that everything's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got this. Mm-hmm. We're maybe not newlyweds at this point, but we have a beautiful family. We have some kids, a few kids that are the most adorable little human beings on planet Earth. The business blew up and you guys were making money hand over fucking fists now and bought a mansion on Lake Stevens. And like on the outside looking in, that's the good life.
Oh, dude, people used to call us Ken and Barbie when we got the house on the lake. It was a mutual decision. We both were psyched about it.
Well, of course. I'd be psyched to move into that same house tomorrow.
Right now. I know. And it became a bone of contention, I later learned. And it's kind of sad now. It's a little bit tainted because it was the problem according to him. But we enjoyed it.
Like he felt house poor?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. And house poor is a real thing.
And it is a real thing. And
I'm reluctant to buy a bigger house now for that very reason.
Yeah, same. And it happened right around 2007, 8, 9 when everything went tits up and our house value dropped. Especially being in the trades, people are not moving forward with construction. Everything came to a screeching halt, which means when you're your own business owner, as you know, when the economy tanks, you're going down with it if you are not prepared. And so that's a total different part of the story. And it kind of matters. It doesn't matter anymore. But along the way, we bought this house in Snohomish. We didn't have kids until we were 5 years married. And we had our first in 2002. Yeah, so I guess it was more like 3 years married. So we had our first in 2002. And I love that you know his birthday because you have his hunting license.
I was going to say, you know why I know the boys' birthdays? Because I get their hunting licenses all the time and their fishing licenses.
Yes, thank you. So life was going beautifully, except I learned pretty quickly that my husband had some substance abuse issues, and we drank, and there was weed, and
which is normal early 20s stuff.
I know
for 90% of humans.
I totally agree,
and it's also normal for 43-year-old humans.
It is totally so. But it changed him. He was not good when he was drinking. And then there was a point when he started drinking that he would start taking other drugs. And to this day, I only know of one besides marijuana that was on board during some of the episodes. And I do want to mention that we were married for 15 years. And aside from the typical arguments of a normal married couple and just the bullshit of being married, we had 15 notable episodes of significant abuse. So events that
when you say
changed my life.
15 episodes.
Yes.
Spread out over the 15 years?
Spread out over the 15 years.
So
they
it's
started
like
a handful towards the end.
Some wild, crazy shit happens almost on an annual basis?
Yeah, and it sounds like an annual basis. But like I said, there was here and there in the beginning. And then towards the end of our marriage, it kind of all piled up. There was quite a few episodes right in the last couple of years of our marriage.
Well, I think that's an important thing to discuss because something that you've told me offline and also you discussed it in your last show is that there's cycles of abuse where statistically they continue to ramp up. Yeah.
And that's I mean, my case is textbook. So I want your listeners to understand that this is a very real thing and it's so common. I guarantee you know somebody who's in an abusive relationship. I guarantee. It's 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men. And so,
and I don't feel bad for men that are in abusive relationships.
I know. I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
Sorry.
But abuse can be a lot of different things.
Of
like
course.
emotional.
And obviously I'm joking to a certain extent. Like, no, emotional abuse. I mean, there's nothing cool about a woman that treats a guy like dog shit. And then he feels stuck and he just takes it. Like,
and I know, I know people that are in that situation. But I mean, do you want me to talk about like an instant just to give an idea of where we were, like where my safety was?
Well, I mean, the kitchen incident is a perfect example.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable telling that story, because here's another thing that I think is important for people to hear is like, I think there's a lot of people out there that think like when a woman says that she experienced abuse, you know, like, are you serious? Yeah. Are you being dramatic? Are you blowing it up? And it's like, on one hand, I always knew that you weren't. But then the other thing that's important to understand is like abuse is also kind of in the eye of the beholder.
I agree with that. I do. I agree.
Know, if you feel like your partner's actions are physically and emotionally abusive, that in itself is going to be abuse, right?
It's super, I'm glad you say that. It's super interesting that you say that, because it wasn't until I left that I realized that all of those years that was abuse. It took me to look in from the outside. And I'll tell you how I got to actually choosing to leave in a bit. But I was constantly thinking, oh, well, it's got to be my fault. And that's very typical. I didn't see it that way when I was in it. And that was for 15 years.
So you're saying like you'd get upset about something and you would be like, fuck, what did I do wrong? What should I have done better? Or what do you mean by that?
I just glazed over it like we got in a fight.
Okay.
And so I didn't really.
Sounds like that almost means it started to become your norm.
It was 100%. It was totally the norm. But again, 15 incidences in 15 years, that doesn't sound like very many. And I look back and I think it's 15 too many, of course. But until I got to the other side and could look back on all of those, I started to write a book. Not necessarily to publish, but I wanted to have some documentation of my experiences. Okay. So.
And it's a good way of getting it out of you too.
Yes. And I was hoping that in writing this book, it was going to be healing. And as you know, because I've told you before, I have started to write this book and I can't. It is so painful.
That's why you need to.
Oh, Greg, I literally have to stop. I can't see through my tears. And so instead, I just wrote a timeline. And as you know, my memory doesn't fail me. Details are never lost on me. I've said this before. I can remember the color of your thread in your shirt that night, you know, and in one of the chapters that I have gotten through, I remember the stitching in my jeans was red. And I remember laying on the floor with my hands gripped around the toilet, hugging the toilet. And I remember the lid of the toilet was up because that's what you do when you barf, right? I don't know. And I was vomiting out of fear. I wasn't sick.
You weren't intoxicated?
I wasn't intoxicated. This was the next, a whole night and the next morning after one of the very first incidences. I was so afraid. My body just started convulsing. And I remember
That's the time you had people over?
No, you've never heard this. It's one of the very first incidences. And I'm laying on the tile and I would lay my cheek on the tile because it was cold. I didn't even care that my head was like on the floor next to the toilet, and half the time it was in the toilet. And I was just trying to figure out what just happened. Am I going to die? And this was before we had children. This was pretty early. So anyways, to say that, there are no details that are lost on me. And so
You got to write the book.
I got to write the book. I tried to write the book. And the reason I say that is because I haven't had the courage and the strength to get through all of these chapters. I have a timeline of events. And that's how I know that there's 15 notable events, because I can tell you each of them. And I was thinking they're each going to have their own chapter. And eventually, hopefully they do. And so I can tell you, once we were on the lake and we were doing well, things got stressful for him because we had a mortgage that was, kind of a big deal, but we were also doing phenomenal in business. And so we would frequently have friends over. We would have dinner parties. We had a boat. We would take our friends out on the boat, come back in and have dinner, and all these beautiful memories. That there is a lot of beauty in a lot of these memories too. I have so many good memories.
Were you good at hosting parties back then too?
You think so? I sure was.
Did you make charcuterie boards?
Charcuterie wasn't a thing. I feel like I invented charcuterie. And I probably invented it in like 2009.
Well, you do make meat roses
flowers
and stuff.
So one night we had two friends over. They were some of our best friends. And they came over for dinner, and we had barbecue chicken. We had done the chicken on the grill. And then dinner was over. We went out in the boat. I had taken the chicken off the grill and put it on a plate, put it in our house on the island. And we, went out in the boat, whatever, came back in. And it was such a beautiful night. We had this deck that overlooked the lake. We turned on our outdoor fire pit. We were sitting there just probably having a nightcap and just shooting the shit, having a good time. And do you remember when your kid was in second grade and had to play the little flute recorder thing?
The recorder, of course.
Dude.
Like Three Blind Mice and Mary Had a Little Lamb,
yes.
all that shit.
So they bring the recorder home and they practice it for like a month, and everyone in the house goes crazy.
Yeah.
So we had this recorder out on our deck. And it was just sitting on the side, because when you have kids stuff is kind of everywhere. Right?
Think? Yeah.
So the recorder, for whatever reasons, out on the deck. And
I don't know where this part of the story's going, but I like it.
It's good. So actually it's really bad, but it's a good, it'll help.
Paints the picture.
Understand. Yes.
Yeah. Help
you understand. So he grabs the recorder, and I'm like, oh, is he going to play a little jig for us? No. He took the recorder and he smashed it on the side of the fire pit. And we had like the stone fire pit, and it disintegrated into, I don't know, dust. Okay.
Maybe he was sick of hearing Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Well, the kids weren't even home. The baby was home. She was up in bed. And the boys, I know right where they were. I know who they were with. They were at a sleepover at a friend's house. But the baby, who was 1 or 2 at the time, she's my almost 18-year-old. She's in bed. And I was like, what? And our friends looked right at me like, what just happened?
So everything's all good?
Yeah, it was just
like no bad vibes?
No bad vibes.
Fuck this recorder.
Yep.
Smash it to a million pieces.
Mm-hmm. And so then I look at my friends and I'm like, I got to get them out of here. We are in trouble.
So you could tell
yeah.
he's going into one of his episodes.
So what would happen is I could see it in his eyes. So I can see it right now as I'm sitting here. His pupils would dilate, and I thought he was going to murder someone, hopefully not me. And he would get very, very angry, but it would happen literally in an instant. It wasn't like a slow roll. It was instant. And so the recorder smashes. I look at my friends. I'm like, yep, so it's time. It's time for us to go to bed. And they looked at me and they didn't want to leave. I could tell. And I'm like, ugh, like I blew it off. Oh my gosh, this is just ridiculous. Let's go to bed, And we all got up. I walked them to the door and I said, it's fine. I'll be fine. You guys go home. I got this. And my friend at the time was like, I feel bad for her and him too. It was a married couple. And
do I know them?
You do know them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I pushed them out the door, essentially, shut the door, locked it. And I knew I had to diffuse the situation because it was going to get really ugly. I knew it would. I'd been down this road enough times to know I saw it in his eyes, the snap that happened out on the deck. I was in trouble. And so remember the barbecue chicken on the counter. So I walk back into the house and he's hot. And I don't make eye contact. I'm just like, how do I make this okay? I pretend like nothing just happened because it's all I can do to diffuse the situation. And I walked into the kitchen and around the island because I just needed to put the chicken away and pretend like nothing happened. And he would get right up on me, like right on the back of me. Even if there weren't people around, he would whisper really nasty things in my ear. I specifically remember what he said that night. And I walked around the island, and before I could even, it was a split second. He put basically his hand in his palm on my forehead, and he slammed my back down on the counter over the chicken. My head hit the counter so hard. And in that moment, there was madness. It was a very physical altercation. He's much bigger than me, much stronger than me, had way more power. He would stand on my feet to where he knew I couldn't get away. And I'm a scrappy bitch. Like I will fight so hard. And I did. And I pulled out and I knew he was going to go for the baby, because if I was going to get away, he was going to grab the baby. And so we both ran toward the stairs, and you run through our foyer, and our stairs were like these huge stairs that go up to her bedroom, which was at the very top of the stairs. It was the first bedroom. And she had like this crib because she was still little, but I think she might've been 2 because we had taken the end off the crib so she could climb in and out of it. So it was more of a toddler bed at this point. And do you remember that scene, Sleeping with the Enemy, where Julia Roberts is running up the stairs and he's grabbing her ankles? And it's just this massive scuffle where you're not sure what the hell's going on, but it's not good. And I somehow was able to get to the baby first, and I grabbed her out of her bed. I climbed in her bed, I grabbed her, and I ran like a bat out of hell downstairs. And thank God that I always left my keys in the car. And it's late at this point. It's dark out. I'm going to say it's probably 10 or 11 at night because it's summertime. And I just remember it was dark. I jumped in the car. I am filthy. I have barbecue sauce in my hair, all over my back, all over me. I'm sweating. And the poor baby is like, whoa. I just pulled her out of a deep sleep. And I didn't care. I jumped in the car, got out of the garage, and flew as fast as I can with the baby on my lap to my parents' house and I prayed. I said, God, please, God, have a cop in my way. Please let me speed past a cop right now. I need help so badly. I'm so scared because I knew he was coming for me. And there was no cop. And I got to my parents' house and they lived a couple minutes away, right where they live and where in relation to where my house was. It was halfway around the lake. My parents had a place in Hawaii that they were on vacation at during this time, which I knew. So I knew it was safe for me to go there.
Well, it'd be safe regardless.
Right. But I was
you
still
wouldn't want to go there.
I wouldn't have gone there if I knew my parents were there.
Because they'd know something's up.
Right. I mean, hello, I am a mess. You can see I'm just very distressed.
It's actually shocking to me that you didn't, you and Papa have
I know.
one of the best relationships that I've seen with daughter-father.
I think we have the best, if I'm being honest.
That's what I'm saying. To this day.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh, I don't even want to say that it was pride or shame. It was just confusion. I really can't say that I was prideful or shameful. I want to say probably more shameful because I was ashamed not of me, but of him. And so I'm flying around the lake.
It's a representation of your whole family. And
Absolutely.
everything you guys have built, everything you are.
And at this point, we have 3 kids. We are living this lifestyle that's so beautiful. And we're attending church on Sunday, and we look really good from the outside. And so I get to my parents' house. They're not there. And I run inside and the alarm trips. I trip the alarm, and the alarm company, of course, calls my dad because he's the owner of the house. Is something wrong? Is there a fire? Is there a burglary? And my dad immediately calls me. Meanwhile, the alarm is like beep, beep, beeping, but it's not doing the really loud beeping yet because the alarm company is waiting to hear back from my dad. I know the code. I know the password because the alarm company could also call me and I could tell them what the password is. And I can't remember anything. And my dad,
you're too flustered.
I was a mess. And honestly, I don't even remember if the baby was crying. I just remember this fog of fear. My dad calls me. He's like, honey, are you at the house? And I said, yeah. He's like, what is going on? And I said, nothing. Jake and I are not right now. I'm going to go ahead and stay here tonight. He's like, oh, honey, I'm really sorry. Can we do anything? I'm like, no, you guys enjoy your vacation. I'm fine. I'm with the baby. We're going to just stay here tonight. And I somehow had a voice that was calm. I don't know why. I had every opportunity.
You were good at faking it. That's how
I was so good at faking it. And then I kept thinking, so I climbed in bed with the baby in my parents' bed, and I probably got barbecue sauce all over their sheets. And we slept through the night, and he didn't come. And I went home the next morning, and I was angry. I was angry at everybody. I was angry at God. I was angry at the police that wasn't there. I was pissed at myself for not telling my dad. I was probably even mad at my dad. I don't know. But I was mad at everybody because nobody came to save me that night. And that's when I realized that no one's coming to save you. And
I can get you a shirt that says that on it.
Yeah. And I have it, but I'll take another. I almost wore it today, actually. I did. So I recognized.
We joke because that's the podcast slogan. But that's an important thing to highlight because it can be addiction. It can be obesity. It can be your physical fitness. It can be you're unhappy in a career, or you can be a young woman that's being abused. And the first step to change has to fucking be you.
Yeah.
It has to be you.
And meanwhile,
and that's what no one is coming to save you means.
Right. And then
the path to betterment starts with you. And here's the thing. Once you take that step, don't get me wrong. Like we say all the time, it takes a village because we have each other's back. Like you and Jenny always have each other's back, helping each other out. You and I, like your solid 6 girlfriends. Like once you make that step, now people will come and save you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really, they're not coming to save you. They're walking the journey with you.
Yep.
But you have to be the one to do that.
Yeah.
Was that the incident that really started making you reflect, thinking, what am I doing? What's going on here?
I think so, yes. Although I let it continue because the kids were 6, 8, and 10 when I finally called it.
Well, let me ask you this. So, because like we talked about this with Jenny, and I said, you know what? There has been times in my life when I've wanted to just like push her down or it's like, get the fuck away from me. Like men have sometimes out of control thoughts.
Oh, you mean testosterone?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also something that I've never done because I have self-control.
Right.
And that's where the difference is. Because I think a lot of men have violent thoughts. Fuck this recorder. Like, and I've done stupid shit like that. I kicked my own front door down one day.
And it's okay to smash the recorder.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I've done dumb shit like that could be misconstrued as being like way too aggressive and out of line. I am not a fucking saint. But smashing your head on the counter is an escalation that is in a totally different fucking universe.
It is.
Totally different universe. Now, you come home the next day, you had your head smashed on a counter the night before.
Yep.
Is it just, hey, it's all good?
Okay, so that's a great question. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Because I'm assuming, at least in my marriage, we got some shit to sort out right now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So no, that's not what happened. I did go home the next morning. I laid, and I literally couldn't let her go. I couldn't stop holding the baby. I was like, she is my number one. I will fight to the death for me and my babies. And
so you were still in fear then?
Oh,
because that's a fight or flight response.
Dude, I still struggle with the fear of all of that. It is an ongoing battle, and you know it.
I know this.
It hits me hard.
But I'm saying in that moment, just because you didn't sleep it off, as soon as you got home, it's like,
well, and then
walking back into the lion's den.
That's exactly what it is. Oh my gosh, I used that phrase multiple times. Thank you very much. So I go out on the deck where we were sitting that night. And I just laid down. I don't even know if I changed my clothes or what, but I just laid down and I just cried. And I thought, what am I doing? And his brother, who worked for us, and I do want to say I really liked his brother. And shit, I liked his whole family. His family is very, very special to me. And I'm not just saying that in case they hear this, but
no, you've told me that offline a lot, that it was,
they were very loved by me, and they loved me very much. I don't know if they do anymore, but so his brother walked in, and his brother had been present for a couple other of these episodes. And there was one time where his brother actually came in clutch for me and de-escalated the situation. That was actually the time where I was laying on the ground next to the toilet. It was that time so his brother was aware that these incidences were occurring. And he walked in and looked at me and said, "Are you going to be okay?" And I looked at him and I said, no, I'm not. And he looked at me with such pity. It was almost like we had an understanding. And he didn't know what happened. He just knew something had happened.
And I'm sure you're still all disheveled and just...
I was a mess.
Wearing it on your face.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And he just said, "I'm sorry." And that was it. And he left. And I don't know when when my husband came back, I don't really remember. It's kind of a fog, but he did always say, I don't know what I did last night. And I don't think he was using that as a pass. I don't know. At first, I didn't believe him, but to later find out when I went into deep counseling, I understood that there is a solid chance that every one of those episodes he was blacked out.
Fully blacked out.
Fully blacked out.
Does that change it for you?
Oh man, that's a great question.
Because I know
Yes
a
and
lot
no.
of people will use the addiction as an excuse.
Mhm.
And on one hand, it's kind of true, right?
Mhm.
If you weren't doing the drugs and the alcohol that you were
Yeah.
mixing together,
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't have happened.
Well, and at some level,
Right?
you are choosing
But that's
to
where
put those substances
that's
in
where
your
I'm
body.
going. That's where I'm going next.
Yes.
Because I like to go have a drink sometimes. I like to smoke a joint sometimes.
Yeah.
But and when I was younger, I would black out sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real thing that occurred. When I was blacked out, I never did anything aggressive to my women or anything like
Right.
that. But I'm saying, like, there's a part of me that can understand, like,
Right.
oh shit, you come to and what the fuck happened?
Right.
That could be reality. But here's the problem. If that's your reality, and when you're in those moments, you're doing that to your woman,
Mm.
I would say you get one pass with that.
Mm-hmm.
One pass.
Yes. Yes. Again.
And guess what? If you gave him one pass on it and he recognized it and changed it, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about
I agree. And the last thing I wanted was for my marriage to end in divorce. I mean, nobody wants that, of course, but I was fighting tooth and nail to fix this. And
Is that when you took a deep dive into counseling?
So no.
You needed a couple more incidents.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Fuck, man.
I don't know what it is, but I continued to protect him. There was one time I went to my dad and I kind of just revealed lightly, hey, I'm scared. I'm real scared. And Dad is amazing.
He's amazing, but even he didn't understand the severity of it.
Nobody could, because I could barely understand it myself, and to articulate it.
Well, he has since expressed regret and sorrow to me, because him and I have talked about it.
I know. And I hate that.
I wasn't protecting my little girl.
I hate that though, because I'm like, Dad, I didn't let you in.
It doesn't matter. As a father, if I were to find out that one of my little girls was being exposed to something traumatic and I didn't stop it, it doesn't matter what pieces of the puzzle I have. I would feel like I failed her. And that's what your dad experienced.
Yeah. I mean,
and
I
it's
hear
sad
you.
as fuck, but it's also part of this story that's real.
And it's part of my story. And I'm here to tell you, I am not that girl anymore. And I am
I know.
Very proud.
And we got time to, trust me, we'll get to that.
I am very, very proud of coming out on the other end and being
when
who I
met
am.
you, when we were both, and like we mentioned it earlier, we were both in a very, very dark place in life. And I think that actually helped our families kind of come together.
Mm-hmm.
But like Jenny told me when you and her went to the court one day together to file some type of custody paperwork. And when she came home, she's like, Greg, the way in which Angie physically shut down, I didn't realize that that's where she's at with this. She said you were like trembling, you couldn't speak very well. Like your motors, your nervous system couldn't function when you would feel fear around him. And for me, that's a hard thing for me to kind of conceptualize. But I bet a lot of women that have walked your path or are currently in it probably know exactly.
Oh man, I don't know if other women have this visceral reaction.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because when I did start counseling, my neck would always turn red when I used to talk about these incidences. And I would start to tremble. Like I could feel it actually starting to happen here a second ago. And when I was in counseling, after the first session, and we had a 2-hour first session, she said, I have to give you a diagnosis in my notes.
Of
She
PTSD.
said, she said, I am watching your body change when you bring up anything that's
Traumatic
and violent. She said, it's so obvious that you are having a physical reaction from talking about this. And so I'm just going to tell you, I'm diagnosing you with PTSD. I'm like, no. So like, I didn't go to war. I didn't go and, see terrible things overseas. How could I possibly have PTSD? And she really laid it out for me and she helped me understand it. And it made me so mad.
You know what I think, Ange? Because this isn't the first time I've had people tell me that. They're like, come on, you were a ranger in Iraq or Afghanistan and contractor in Iraq. That's where you get PTSD. Mm-hmm. No, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong. Absolutely, you can get PTSD from those experiences. But when you put on body armor and a machine gun and you go out into the streets of Ramadi, knowing that there are men out there that want to kill you, while violence can be it can be scary or unsettling, it's also normal and it makes sense.
You're prepared for it.
That's prepared what you're going for. And it's also logical. It's like, hey, this group of men hates me and we hate them. And we're going to go out there and we're going to settle this. Mm. There is no logic in your family, your house. Mm. Your house has to be your sanctuary.
And it can happen in an instant when you're not prepared.
And that's what I'm saying. So you're not prepared. There is no normalcy around it. It doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. I can see why that would be more traumatic than anything that I went through.
Well, and I lived with this low hum of fear.
Because you just never knew.
I just never knew. And
you didn't get over that fear.
I'm still not completely over it.
I think you're pretty close though. Compared to, and again, to kind of dovetail into like what we were saying about those court documents that you had to go file or whatever it was. And Jenny's just like, wow, like her physically, she completely shuts down.
I would have to.
You're strong as fuck now.
Thank you.
When it comes to being willing to fight for yourself.
Yeah. Yep. I am.
And maybe, I'm not saying there's no fear, right? Or that you're not going to have moments.
And that incident on the airplane that you referenced earlier on our way to Mexico, it brought that back in me. Like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I will never let a man treat me like this ever. And, so yeah.
We don't need to go down that.
We're not.
We don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
No, we're not. Yeah.
But again, there's a part of me that's like, I should have went back there and fucked that dude up.
Dude,
but then I would have been arrested in a foreign country.
Put your contacts in. I'm like, Greg, put his contacts in.
I want to be able to see if I'm going to get a fight, right?
Yeah.
Couple regrets on that trip. And I actually don't know if that's a regret. That I don't know.
We didn't want you to go to Mexico jail.
But the dude that was taking pictures of you and Jenny's ass, he should have got more than a shove.
That's right. Oh,
he should have got laid out.
Great. Jenny and I are like, doo-doo-doo. We're just trying to wash our feet at the...
And I walk up behind the girls and this dude has his iPhone out, holding it sideways on video, recording, zoomed in, and the whole, I looked right over his shoulder and his whole screen was both of your asses.
Right on his screen.
Right on screen. Watching it being recorded. And I'm just like.
And then we hear this.
And I gave him a shove. I'm like, what's up, motherfucker? And I was like, ooh. Like instantly. I mean, bro, there's nothing to say. I should have smashed that phone into a million pieces.
Yeah.
But we.
Shoulda, woulda.
But I want to know about we don't need to, the story is being painted very clear. I don't think people need to hear details of 15 incidents.
No, and I'm not talking about it anymore. Like,
I want you to talk about how you realized talking about it with people, going to counseling, seeking guidance, seeking help, was really a big step on setting you free. And then your counselor had like real, like actually scary advice for you.
Thank God. So yes. So after the final incident, which wasn't the one I just told you about, it was
A public one.
a public scene, and it was quite a scene.
Well, I think it's important to say one thing about that, because your counselor had already been warning you about these. There's a typical progression, right?
I hadn't met with her yet.
Oh, in hindsight, she talked about that.
So,
I see. Okay.
So when this particular incident happened, he was arrested. He was convicted with domestic violence. And I had to go through the whole bullshit of photographs, statements, massive statements from people that were there. Everything's public record. It was a mess. And so
probably pretty fucking embarrassing too, huh?
Oh, I was so embarrassed. The cat was out of the bag. Everyone knew.
Couldn't hide it anymore.
Everyone knew. And now I have to talk about it.
Everybody knew. And then everybody probably knew like that you've been hiding it.
Well, I will tell you that a lot of my girlfriends had a lot of questions over the years. A lot of questions. There was a lot of flags. There was lots of things that were concerning. It wasn't until,
we're fine.
Yeah, totally. Of course. Oh, it's this or that and whatnot. So after that last incident, he went to rehab, which was a great choice for him. And he did get sober. He didn't stay sober. He's sober now. I will say that. But at that time, I think he went back a couple times. I'm not positive on that. But I was so broken. I was so broken physically, mentally, emotionally, that I knew I needed to get help. And at that time, I was just thankful he went to rehab. And I'd already in my head created this story that I was going to tell all the girls and say, it's actually really not that bad. And I had already planned it. I'm like, girls, I even texted all the girls and said, I really want to get together and talk to you about my side of the story. I want to drop the veil, but I wasn't really going to drop the veil. I was just going to give them
keep them content.
Just enough, because at that point I had planned on staying married to him. And because I thought, okay, here we go, rehab.
Did your love for him ever diminish through this?
That's a great question. I don't think so. Isn't that weird?
I don't know if it's weird. I don't know if it's weird.
I feel like,
because I'm trying to understand, like, for men like me, the question is, well, fucking leave him.
Right.
What are you doing, dummy?
Right.
But if you're in love with someone, it's almost impossible to see them through a clear lens. And
yes, that's a very good way to present it. That's exactly what I think I was doing. And I was also in survival mode a lot. So I was covering for him. I was taking care of the kids.
Well, let me ask you this too. Because you already said that now I'm in a constant state of fear, because you don't know. It's not if, it's when, right? Mm-hmm. But in between incidences, was it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had a lot of really good times.
That's going to make it really hard for your brain, because it's like 90% of the time it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's great and he's cool.
Yes. And he was cool.
And I'm here to tell you, I've had great conversations with him.
Yes. And you know what?
And he is cool.
I know.
Like, so I mean.
And he's the father of my children. Like, I had a lot of respect for him on a lot of other levels.
Yeah.
A phenomenal businessman. You know, I'm trying to.
If you don't got to say, you don't. No, there's things that, like, sometimes saying less is more.
Yes,
we've talked about that, right? Yep. And I also know, like, this podcast isn't about paint him in a bad light.
No,
because he's actually doing.
He's doing really well.
Fucking awesome these days.
He really is. But
there was a phase in your life that was really, really dark. And for your own well-being and your own safety, you had to get out of there.
Yes. Yes.
That's the story that people need to hear.
Well, and so as soon as that happened, I immediately started digging deep into, I need a specialist. I need somebody who's going to help me with this topic. I don't want your run-of-the-mill counselor. I need somebody who is going to specialize in domestic violence. And I need to get there immediately. And I did. And so, I kind of told you about my first session, and then.
And give her a shout out again.
I will. Her name is Erica Baxter. She's in Everett, and she absolutely saved my life without question. And so as we're going through counseling, it was several sessions in, and she said, so you've painted a really good picture for me. I understand your story. It started here with this first incident where it was not coming home. Okay. And that is a form of abuse, not making contact with me, staying out all night. That is a form of abuse. So she said, so we're at 12. Okay. On this clock that she grabbed off of her side table, she said, here's the clock. Here we are, 12.
Don't counselors always have a fucking almost kindergarten way of explaining shit?
It was so perfect.
But it
was
works.
Pretty rudimentary, and I needed that.
Yeah.
And so 12 o'clock is when this happened. And so she walked through all the numbers of the clock and reminded me of each of the different incidences that I had presented to her. And she said,
it's not just different instances, but there's a progression.
There's a total progression. It's kind of funny how textbook it is. It was literally the cycle that you look at. There's lots of resources out there. Actually, look at it.
Cycle of abuse or
yes,
something?
Yes, how it starts, where it goes. It tends to go this route. Okay. And so she said that, and I did look at that circle of abuse before I came today because I wanted to see how accurate it was. And for me, it was pretty accurate. It doesn't specifically say at 11 that it is public, but that's what she told me. She said, you are now back all the way up to 11, and there was a public incident in front of a lot of people. And
so it means he's losing his ability to manage it. He is
losing it. We can no longer hide this. And she said, so at 12, guess where you are? And I was like, I feel like you're going to tell me something.
In chicken again?
Yeah, right?
No, it's not more. 12's not more chicken.
She straight up said, you're dead. And I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I can't die. I'm not ready for that. And I'm a mom and I got to raise my babies. And she then said, if you want to stay married to this man, I will support you and I will give you the tools that you need. If you want to divorce this man, I will support you and I will give you the tools that you need. But I cannot make that decision for you. You know what it looks like on this clock. And so I'm just going to let you take that with you today. And that was it for me.
She kind of made the decision.
She was so vanilla about it. Just like, it is what it is. These are the facts. I'm going to help you. It was wild. There was no expression on her face.
That's probably the best way to receive that. It's
just it was.
Hey, this is where you're at. Yeah. And I'm down to help you with whatever path you take.
Yep.
But just know, this is it, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So, and that is when I decided, okay, we're done. I can't leave my children orphaned, is what I thought in my head. Yeah. I don't know that I ever said that out loud, and I don't even like to say it now. But I knew we were on a path of mass destruction if I didn't get a handle on this. But in the back of my head, I still had this idea of telling everybody it wasn't so bad. I promise it wasn't so bad. It sounds bad, but it wasn't. But it was.
Yeah, but at that point, you kind of needed to justify your actions, right?
Right, because I've been covering all this
splitting
time.
the family up.
And that,
And you're,
oh man. And then,
so everybody's mad at you.
right. So, well, his family was mad at me, and my family was disappointed because I don't think they truly wrapped their brain around the big picture. Because rewind to like when I was 22 and naive, I thought that this beautiful marriage was just standard.
Mm-hmm.
And so did my family. And so I always just made us to be this beautiful family with these beautiful kids, this beautiful home, these beautiful parties. And now here we are. Hey, sorry guys. I'm choosing life. And that's when the true shitstorm happened. Like the shit hit the fan.
Well, because now you got two sides. That person's telling the truth.
Yep.
Which means that person's a liar.
Yep.
And everything he says is a lie. Everything she says is a lie. Like now it just got dark for a long time.
Well, and in his defense, not that he needs a defense, but in his defense, he genuinely says he doesn't remember any of the episodes. And I do want to add this because I think it's important. He said to me after he got out of rehab, when we were still married, he said to me, I give you permission to sit down with me and tell me every time I hurt you, because I want to know. And I couldn't do it.
What do you mean you couldn't do it?
I couldn't do it. I said, it's too painful, man. I don't want to relive any of this. And
well, but were you already emotionally decided to leave him at that point?
Not at that point.
Okay. Because if you're going to stay together, I feel like
no.
He needs to know.
It was all kind of this crazy whirlwind of a few months. He felt genuinely terrible when he came from rehab. Genuinely terrible. I could see it in his body language. I could see it in everything. And it was at that point that I thought, man, maybe he is telling me the truth. Maybe he isn't just using that as an excuse. And that's when I brought it to my counselor, and she's like, this is in fact a thing, especially in abusive situations.
Well, and it goes back to what we said. It doesn't matter if it's true or untrue.
Yeah.
The pattern wasn't changing.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to operate based off of what's actually occurring, not what he remembers or doesn't remember. Right. It's kind of a moot point, right?
Totally. So, and then it was just a mad scramble to make sure my kids were okay. It was a mad scramble. And then that's right about the time you entered the scene. And of course, Jay, who is now my husband, was also a pivotal part in just because I had to work full time. I got 3 jobs. Nothing was beneath me at this point because I had to support my kids. And because there was a period of time where the courts, if you've been through divorce, you know, there's lapsed time of, child support and that kind of thing.
Well, it was a 10-year battle of bullshit.
It was. Yep. It took actually about 7 years for me to finally let the dust settle with the kids, making sure that I was taking care of them 100%. So,
well, it worked out great for me.
I know it did. Yeah. And
because I didn't have sons.
I know.
I just had 3 daughters that are my entire world. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
I love my girls more than you can love a human being. But little boys and little girls have different interests, different energies, different, just the way in which they want to spend their time. And I always wanted sons.
Yeah.
And I'm not complaining that I don't have sons, because if I did have sons, I probably wouldn't be bonded to your boys like I am.
I don't think you would be. And
there was a void that we both had in our life at that point, because then they got separated from their dad, and he wasn't present through this process.
He was in and out present. There was a couple years where he wasn't present at all.
Yeah. And that's when I
yes.
they started doing jiu-jitsu with me.
Mhm.
And then it's like, okay, let's go fishing.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go on a hike.
Oh my gosh.
Let's do this. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where it's like, I don't know what title you put on that. Like, they never looked at me as dad. They never called me dad. There was it's not that at all.
No, but it
was
an unspoken like father role.
It was like beautiful. A mentorship role.
It's even more than that though. Mentorship is cool. It's way deeper than that.
It is.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would have died for your boys. I still would. Like,
I know.
They were a huge part of my life for the last 10 years. And the coolest part about it is, I've actually talked about this on the podcast before on an episode of like rites of passage and mentorship, things like that. We have, like, when they were 10 and 11, it's very clear that I'm filling a mentorship role, right? Mm-hmm. Now that they're 20 and 21, it's like, we're homies.
Yeah.
And it's cool. We go hunting together. Yeah. We go hiking together still. Yeah. And it's, I foresee that being part of my life indefinitely.
I hope so.
They better see that too.
Change. They definitely see it. I mean, yeah.
We
needed you guys text each other every single day?
Yeah, of course. We needed each other in a capacity that just, I don't know, we meshed together and our families meshed together. And then you and Jenny meshed together, and then like a bunch of different journeys started to kind of transpire from this connection. Mm-hmm. And then and I mean, we don't have enough time to talk about like your fitness journey. Because for people wondering, you're the second fittest human I know. Mm-hmm. After Monkey.
I knew you were going to say Monkey.
Because it's the truth. Monkey was the fittest human being I knew. And you knew Monkey. Like, we'd go out to Coeur d'Alene, but our families would all go together and we'd hang out with them. And I remember I used to tell you guys, I want you to do head-to-head 100 burpees for time.
Yes.
Because you're the two fittest human beings I know. And not a female standard and a male standard. Like, I told Seth, I'm like, Ange is a different fucking thing, dude. And I've grown up in the Ranger Regiment. And then I contracted, and my whole team was Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Rangers, Force Recon Marines. And this fucking woman would do these workouts that would take my soul from me.
I'm like, can I make Greg cry today?
Oh, dude, it's gnarly. And I remember Seth said to me, he goes, I'll do 100 burpees for time against her, but to make it somewhat fair, I'll slam a fifth of whiskey first.
Yep. He's like, oh yeah.
And I wish we'd done that, man.
Oh man. I would have so done that.
I know you would have.
Why didn't we do that?
Just because we were just talking shit and having fun. It was true. I mean,
because
I believe
that we didn't have time.
Of course.
That's bullshit.
I know.
And
I'm really glad that we got that last trip to Coeur d'Alene with the whole family.
I am too.
It was important.
So many funny things.
Everybody got sick as fuck.
Oh my gosh.
But hey, it was worth it.
And Seth lost 9 pounds and he texts me and he's like, are you sick? Because I'm home at this point.
So for people wondering what we're talking about, we met up with Seth's family and Jen and Atlas, and they all had norovirus.
Yes.
And they'd just gotten over it. So they didn't know they didn't think they were contagious still. And then we all went down hard.
So hard that Monkey's like, he texted me knowing I was now suffering and he got through it. He's like, I lost 9 pounds. And I texted him, I'm like, dude, you're a dude. I probably gained 9 pounds. Sure enough, at the end of norovirus, I'm like, Jenny, all of these boys are like losing all of their fluids, they're all shredded, and here we are just bloated after norovirus.
I got a picture of you. Your head looks like a basketball.
I know. I'm wearing that pink onesie, and my eyelids are even swole.
Oh man.
Oh, we have some good memories.
But yeah, anyways, what I was saying as part of that tangent is like fitness is one of the most important aspects of your life.
Yes.
And then you started training with Jenny every day and took her, like, it's like your role in all of our lives is to like change the trajectory for the better. And
I
like,
hope so.
because like, remember how fit that first year you guys got together?
Oh,
you got her to do like, and I'm not saying I'm not giving the credit to you
together.
because she's the one that put the work in, right? But also it's so much easier to not only have an accountability partner or a wing person to actually go to the gym with, but someone that was farther down that journey because you'd already been working out and training and taking it very serious for a long time. And that was just hugely beneficial to her.
It was beneficial.
And now you guys still work out to this day.
Every day, man. And
except on days you're running.
Yep. So Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, we don't work out, but we work out the rest of the day because I'm running. And it was like a match made in heaven. We all needed each other in different ways that just kind of fit, right?
Yeah.
And so Jenny was, postpartum with Logan and having delivered 3 babies. I know how hard it is to regain your strength, your body, your mind, all of it. And so she allowed me to come up beside her and she showed up every day. She became a savage.
And then she started beating me in workouts.
Yes.
And I was like, dude, I already met this woman that can beat me in workouts. And then my wife started beating me in workouts.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't get me wrong, good.
Yeah,
right? I like the fact
of course
that you guys are that fit. But it's also like, how is this possible? Because I know I'm a savage.
Yeah. You're a savage in a different way, though.
Yeah,
you roll jujitsu, and we've tried to roll jujitsu, Jenny and me. And you're a savage in a different form.
Are you guys going to put the gis back on?
I want to roll a little bit. I don't know.
I know you don't want to become like part of the team and actually invest because
maybe
you can't.
I do.
Well,
how do you know?
Well, if you want to, do. But I know like the CrossFit.
I can already hear Rachel Anderson calling my phone. She's literally calling my phone right now.
Yeah, you're gonna start training. Yes, I love it. But you guys do the thing, the CrossFit side of the house.
Yeah,
and it's what's weird is like, does that place feel like home to you now? The new building?
Oh no, this is home over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh yeah.
This will always be home.
That's just where we,
that's just where you work out.
Yeah. Yep. And I love it over there. We grind and then we come back over here.
Okay.
We hang out.
Good. That's how it needs to. That's how it needs to stay. What else did we want to touch on your journey?
I don't know. So
did you have anything else that? Because I mean, I think we painted a very, very powerful picture, and told enough details for people to fill in the lines or fill in the gaps without trying to how am I trying to articulate this?
I know exactly what you're saying.
You gain nothing from like painting people in a bad light.
And that's not at all what
and I think you did a very
happen.
respectable way of talking about this. But again, the most important part of this is for people that are either in this now or in the initial recovery of it now, because that was just as dark for you, if not darker.
Right. And I will say again, it'll creep in on me and I will panic. So it's wild. And I know you've seen this happen to me before.
Well, the airplane.
The airplane
was a big incident or a big eye opener for me because
it really threw me back.
I thought you were, for lack of a better way of articulating it, healed.
Right.
Because
I did too. That's the thing.
You are not a victim anymore.
No.
At all. And you're willing to acknowledge that and be fierce.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, like there's even been instances where we're struggling with that word today. We are struggling with that word today.
Hey,
both of us fucked that up a couple times. Where you've like publicly yelled at men for being aggressive to their woman. And it's like, not only are you not a victim anymore, but you're an advocate to a certain extent.
An advocate. So,
but one guy jumping on your shit on that flight, Like it was so random and out of the blue, and like.
And Greg, I literally fell on you and Jenny and Carrie, and I sobbed. I sobbed in the airplane. It came
so for
nowhere.
people, we don't need to unpack everything, but you're walking down the hallway and you're 125 pounds. You're a small woman, but still, an airplane aisle is what it is, and this big fat motherfucker that's protruding into the aisle, you bumped into him.
But he wasn't just fat. He was shredded. He looked like a UFC fighter. He didn't look like
when I looked at that dude, I didn't get any intimidating vibes.
So even
and it's not because I'm a bad motherfucker. It's because he didn't tell him his appearance and body language and like size. It didn't have that intimidating
I see what you're saying.
Factor to it. To me. But to you, it's very different.
He was also trying to intimidate me.
Oh, no,
and
I
he's
know.
not trying to intimidate you.
He was 275 pounds or something, right? Big dude.
For sure.
And you bumped into him?
I didn't bump into him.
Oh,
That's the thing. I never
into
touched him. Somebody else bumped into him. I didn't even touch him.
And he took it out on you?
Yes. I wasn't even near him. He said he looked down the aisle and I was 20 feet ahead.
And so he knew that's the girl that bumped into me.
His eyes were closed. He was asleep, he said. And so he has no idea who bumped him. I was the first person he saw 20 feet ahead.
And he's like, so next time you go to the bathroom, don't fucking touch me.
Yes,
and
dude.
it said it like fucking full on triggered you again into feeling like
fight or flight.
Yeah, fight or flight. And you're being victimized again. And it's like a guy on a plane saying that to you shouldn't have elicited that response, but it was clear that, Ange isn't over.
So I think there's a combination.
Ange isn't over all her shit yet, man.
So I think there's a combination of I'm not over my shit yet. And it goes back to that I feel everything so deeply that in that moment, I felt the pain of my past and I felt embarrassment, but I felt it really deep.
And rage, too.
And rage. It was this just time bomb. And so I had the opportunity to go sit in the bathroom for a second and gather my thoughts. And then I gave him the shit when I came out. And then Rachel later did. And I'm like, whoa, we can bring it down now.
And then I was like, I'm going to have to fight this guy in the terminal.
So I'm going to go ahead and put my contacts in.
I'm going to have to fight this dude at baggage claim in Mexico. So we'll see what happens. You know what I did think, though, which is probably kind of silly, but I was like, I think I could probably pay enough money to get out of a Mexico jail if I get arrested for beating somebody up. Right? If you give him $2,000, like, hey, I fucked that dude up at the airport, but here's $2,000. I was already thinking like, what?
There's a price for everything.
Where could this go? Right? Because you may not know this, but I was going to get taken to jail, to a Mexican jail when I was 18 for pissing on the beach.
That doesn't surprise me.
And then I said, what if I give you $100? And the cop's like, that's straight then.
The federales.
Yeah, $100 fine for peeing on the beach and we're straight. So I gave him $100 and it was over.
Do you just always carry 100 with you every time you go?
I actually don't think I carry money with me in Mexico, but luckily I had some money then.
That's so funny.
But you hear that story all the time. Just pay the cops off.
Yeah.
You know, fuck.
Especially in Mexico.
Well, obviously in Mexico.
In Montana too. I used to live in Montana, so it's not far-fetched to
You can pay the cops off in Montana?
Yes. It was, you always kept cash in your car because there's no speed limit. This is when I lived in Whitefish. And if you get pulled over, it was an understanding. You just slip some cash to the cop and we all go our separate ways.
Dude, I got a buddy that he's actually done the podcast. He's a deputy in Kalispell.
Oh, sorry,
His name's Aaron. He's a black belt.
I think there's a speed limit now.
I'm gonna text him after this and be like, "Hey, what's the deal with Montana these days?"
Yeah, I think they changed things a little bit, but I'm curious.
He actually had a really cool story. He got in Montana, deputies in Montana, they get in a fight. Sometimes it's just them for 25 minutes before backup gets there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he fought a dude for 25 minutes in a field in the snow. And he's like, imagine doing a fucking, imagine being engaged in a fight.
I'm
for that
literally
long.
Imagining it in my
he's
head.
like, his lungs were dry, he had Fran lung, all his muscles were, and he's like, if I lose the fight, I die. Right.
Well, and this guy clearly put up a good fight.
But he wasn't trained then.
Okay.
As soon as that happened, he's like, I have to become trained if I want to be in this profession.
Yep.
And 10 years later, he's a black belt at
Okay.
SBG
Nice.
with Andy Stumpf. That's how I met him
Nice.
training with those guys. But
Nice. So I do really, really want to address the fact that I mentioned my ex-husband's family. I mentioned a few incidences, but now that I'm on the other side and I am stronger, and yes, I have those weak moments where somebody might, I hate the word trigger, but it comes out of nowhere. So I guess it's a trigger. I hate that I still have that.
Triggers are real, Ange.
I know they are.
And I didn't think that they were.
There's a few words that I think are overused in our narrative, and I hate when it's overused. So there's that. But I understand that I still have these little triggers that pop up here and there. And it happens a lot with his family because I feel like they don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so, of course, they support him. And if you don't know, you don't know, right? And so I'm sad that it ruined everything. The fight was so hard after the divorce that I lost a lot of people I love because they didn't believe me.
Yeah.
And that is so demeaning when someone doesn't believe what you're telling them. Especially your family. Like I want to tell.
Yeah, that was your family for 15 years.
And I want to tell anyone who's listening that you will lose people, and there will be a handful of people that do not believe your story, and you have to be okay with it. And I'm okay with it now, but I've said this to you before. There are those people who left me who say now, because I got so into fitness and trying to do these things in my life to make me stronger and take away from the pain. Okay. So I dove into training at the gym and I got bigger muscles.
Sitting in the cold plunge.
And sitting in the cold plunge and doing crazy shit.
75 hard.
75
hard. A bunch of gnarly shit.
Right. And
you never stopped 75 hard though. That's the interesting thing for the most part.
I still kind of do the lifestyle.
That's kind of Andy's idea behind it all.
Totally. And I love it. And Chad and I just talked about it a couple days ago. We still are in that same, we do that same schedule pretty much every day. So I do want to make it clear that if you are a woman or a man that is in this place, people will bail on you and it's going to hurt really, really bad. And people are going to say that you've changed. And that's a huge compliment because I got that a lot. You've changed. You are obsessed with the gym. You're obsessed with your fitness or your looks. I got that too.
Good.
And I'm like,
good.
I'm like, I don't think you understand that is a massive compliment because I'm not weak anymore. And you see my strength and you think that it's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's not. It is so amazing that you just told me that I've changed, but it was not a compliment.
Would it be safe to say that you have prioritized pain?
Yes. Yeah.
You like that little segue?
I sure do.
All right, let's do this. I'm going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Because I'm about to piss my pants.
All right. Let's not do that here.
And then I want to dive into your company for just a couple minutes to wrap this up.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay.
I'm down to clown.
And now that you've broke the seal on podcasting,
yeah,
you're probably going to come on every once in a while, just so you know.
I would love that.
Because apart from your past, the manner in which you pursue excellence and your discipline and your motivation, like that is really kind of what this podcast is all about.
Mm-hmm, I know.
And you're one of the most disciplined, consistent, hardworking human beings that I know. And that message is
thank you.
Just as important as the message that you're putting out today too, I think.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so I wanted to wrap this up because we're coming up on 2 hours, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about exactly the business that you launched, Prioritize Pain,
Mm.
because how you articulated it to me is that like both the pain that we chase day to day in our fitness, our jiu-jitsu, our cold plunge, our sauna, all the stuff that we do, but it's not just about prioritizing pain in the future. It's about using your pain from the past to keep you on a good trajectory.
Yeah.
And allow the things that maybe you reflect on as being negative,
Right.
derive power from those.
Yeah.
To keep you on a motivated trajectory to crush moving forward.
Yep.
And it's cool.
It is cool.
It's a cool motto. It's a cool way to just approach life. And you can look on that shelf behind you. There's the comfort crisis and all, like a lot of people are coming to the same conclusion. Yes. But it doesn't matter. Every single person that jumps on board with this mission, we're that much better off.
Amen.
It's like personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion, right?
Totally.
And every time I say that on the show, I say that I hate that Andy coined that. That should be our term, right? But still, you're doing that in your own way. So talk to people about that.
So you can turn your pain into power. I don't care what your pain looks like. If it's pain from my history, divorce and violence, that was painful. And I have no regrets in my life, really, ultimately, because I'm so grateful for who I am today. I'm in a really good place because I've taken that pain, and it's taken me 11 years to get here. It will be 11 years since my divorce.
And like you said several times, you're not over it yet either.
You're
not fully there yet.
Right. And I don't know that I ever will be. And I just have to be okay with it if we don't get there all the way. But a year ago, my brother Chad came to me, and you're very close with Chad.
And Chad's done the show before.
Yep. He has a printer. He prints shirts. His daughter has a company. And so he came up with this Prioritize Pain image, put it on a shirt, and wore it for fun. And people started making comments. And so, long story short, Chad came to my husband Jay and I and his wife Jamie and said, "Hey, there's something behind this. Prioritize pain." And it's not just about your past pain, which I think is monumental. It's mostly about what are you doing today to present yourself with pain. And I want people to understand the idea behind Prioritize Pain, because it's confusing to some people because they aren't in our circle or they aren't in our mindset. But for me, as you know, I work out really, really hard every day, and it's painful, and there's a purpose for it because it makes me stronger, right? I cold plunge pretty frequently, and the purpose is to make me stronger mentally. And of course, there's a ton of health benefits. That's different. But mostly I do these things to challenge myself mentally. And I'm prioritizing that pain every single day. I can look in my past and say, that was a super painful experience. But look at what I can do today because I gained so much from that experience. And I'm going to pull from it the good and say, oh, damn, I wonder who I would be had I not gone through the shit.
You might be a weak,
meek
little mouse.
I feel like it was always in me to just go and be crazy. And I just needed to find that. And so
it forced you to tap into it in a way that you unlikely wouldn't have.
Right. I totally agree. And I think because of my past is why I found the crazy in me to do all these things that prioritize pain every day. So we started this company. It's an apparel company, sure, but it's way more about supporting people, encouraging people, showing people the love, and getting people to understand the value of the pain in our life. Comfort kills, you know. We can go ahead and draw a lot of power out of our pain. So that is the premise of Prioritize Pain.
Well, I'll put links to Prioritize Pain in the show notes so people can swipe up and support a cool brand.
Appreciate it.
And support Ange because she's one of my favorite human beings.
Mm.
So go do that. Go check her website out.
You.
And I'll link your social as well if you're cool with
Absolutely.
that. I think that's just a good thing because emails are going to be coming in from this.
Yeah. And so also, and I'm being super dead serious about this, if there is a listener out there, and I said, no one's coming to save you, but if you're out there and you're scared and you don't know where to go and you don't know where to tap into resources, call me, send me a message on Instagram. I promise you, I will walk beside you. That is a promise.
Well, again, and it's going to take that first step from them.
Yep, absolutely.
And then you can become a resource.
I am safe. I'm telling you right now, I'm a safe person. You can DM me and I will respond to you, and you might never respond back. If I can at all encourage you or support you, I want to save you. I will do what I can to walk with you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
No, I love that. It's special. You got anything else that is on your mind or on your notes or something you wanted to put out before we wrap this up, or do we want to save it for next episode?
There are so many things that weren't said. So many. There's just not the time, man. We could sit here all day until tomorrow. Yeah. Draw your people in, talk to your people. Oh my gosh. Thank God for my solid 6. Thank God. I do think that they had a huge part in making sure I was able to walk through this, not only after that final incident, but in the 11 years following. And by the way, I just got my Independence Day tattooed massively on my leg, and I think it's pretty rad.
Hell yeah.
081613. Yep.
Well, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being authentic. I love you and your family, and I'm stoked that we've kind of merged.
Yep.
And
I love you and your family, and I cannot thank you.
And
I cannot thank you enough for being a part of my life.
And we're just getting started.
We're just getting started.